Hello, friends. Back again here. Nice to be with you all again here this week. This is another week where we're diving in around this topic, this series of really unlocking the creative muse, unlocking the inner genius, unlocking the higher self to guide us for our creative journeys and in the artwork that we're making. And each week I'm going to dive into another aspect of this. And this week I wanted to share about resistance, the dragons of resistance that show up whenever we engage in some endeavor that is good for us. Anytime that we are advancing on our path or our soul's evolution is increasing, then we're going to be obviously met with resistance. And as your journey becomes deeper and deeper in your creative path, or you embark on any positive endeavor in your life, you're going to inevitably encounter what author Steven Pressfield calls resistance. And this is an inner force that challenges your courage and tests your readiness. And to us, this resistance might feel like, what does this really feel like? What is this resistance? It shows up in really sneaky ways. The resistance will come to you. It'll feel like a fear of failure, a fear of success, a fear of rejection, or it could be self-doubt, crippling self-doubt. You could feel shame, distraction of all kinds, procrastination, confusion, temptation to indulge in vices or sexual urges, or the urge to really give up altogether. And I know probably a lot of you that are listening are familiar with this resistance that arises. And really, the reason why I decided to focus on this today is because this came up for me really strongly today. The resistance dragons, the threshold guardians were very powerful today. And I really had moments of my day where I just felt completely worthless and that all of the things that I'm doing are not going to work out. And that I should just give up altogether. Even coming on here and doing this podcast, you get these feelings of why even keep going? What do I have to say or offer? And these dragons, they come up into the mind and they trick us into believing these things if we're not careful. And the interesting thing is that today I just finished the final edit on this creative course that I'm currently building, writing for artists, really around this topic of unlocking the inner muse, of overcoming the resistance, the threshold guardians, overcoming our fears and doubts so that we can really become connected with our creative genius, and we can allow that to come through. We can allow our higher self to create amazing things through us in our lifetime. And I finished the final edit today. I'm very much looking forward to starting to record the episodes, record the lessons so that I can release those on Skillshare here in the near future. And as one would think, that's a moment of celebration. I've been working on this for a long time. I'm very happy with how this has come out. I've gotten to share it with friends. I've gotten to uh, demonstrate some of the guide some of the meditations that are included in it, and I've gotten really good feedback from it. And all of these things should be giving me a lot of reinforcement around being happy to release it. But the threshold guardians, the dragons of resistance, they penetrate and they come through into our minds and they trick us. I realized that was happening today, and so I thought I would come on here and share about it. And so in a way, really, it just gave me a topic that is relevant to talk about. The cool thing about resistance is that when we overcome it, we realize that these dragons are holding pearls of wisdom for us, and that if we don't give in, we don't give up, then we actually take the power of that dragon, we harness the power, and then we're actually greater for it. And so this is giving me the topic to share with all of you today. So I'm thinking that this is probably relevant for those of you who are listening here currently. And I wanted to give you just a pep talk to let you know that this is very natural and normal. This is it's a equal and opposite reaction to what we are engaging in. There's always going to be an equal and opposite reaction to the work that we're doing, and that is a natural thing that occurs. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you want to give up, if you're feeling worthless today, just remember that that is a good sign that you are pushing beyond your boundaries, you're going beyond your comfort zone, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as an artist, which is to really go beyond our previous limitations, tune in with our higher self, and let that take us to new horizons. The author Steven Pressfield, he wrote a couple of books that I'm a big fan of. One of them is called the War of Art, and the other one is called The Artist's Journey. And these are some quotes from him around this topic of resistance, which he calls capital R resistance. He calls it an evil force. So he says that the more important a call to action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel about answering it. But to yield to resistance deforms our spirit. It stunts us and makes us less than we are and less than we are born to be. He says that as powerful as our soul's call, so potent are the forces of resistance arrayed against it. We are not alone if we've been mowed down by resistance. Millions of good men and women have bitten the dust before us. So we're not alone if this is happening to us. This happens to all of us. And it's those who rise above it and have tools in their arsenal to rise above and to transform, alchemize this resistance into grist for the mill, into energy, into harnessing this power for our journey. Those are the ones who have gone beyond it. It's not like there are artists making great work who haven't faced this. He says, most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. So this resistance stands between us, stands before us, blocking us from the unlived life within us. We have this unlimited potential within us, and it's resistance's job to stop us. He says that I knew I wanted to write novels, but I could not finish what I started. The closer I got, the more ways I'd find to screw it up. And Steven Pressfield, he said he didn't get his first novel published till he was 50 years old. And he'd been working on writing for a long time. And so really it's never too late. Never feel like it's too late for you. It's just because resistance has been blocking us till that point. And maybe we never learned about resistance. Maybe we never heard words like this, and we never knew that there were ways to overcome that, and that it's actually all lies, not really true, that we have infinite, unlimited potential within us. And it's really about going beyond our thinking mind, going beyond our body, mind, and senses, and connecting with our inner genius, which we all have. So all of these lies that come up into our minds, the mind chatter, you can think of it anytime you go to meditate and you're looking to connect with your higher self, to focus, to expand your consciousness, to feel the divine qualities. Automatically what comes up? Distractions. Tries to get us to forget about what we're doing. The mind chatter comes in, and we remember we're not here to think, we're not here to indulge in all of these thoughts. We go back to the technique, back to the meditation, and we just keep doing that over and over, remembering and gently coming back. So the thing is to not get so caught up with the lies of resistance, to remember these words, that when you're feeling those feelings, they can become like so distracting and all encompassing. and we can get so carried away. But just like in meditation, when our mind drifts, we simply bring it back to the practice, bring it back to the technique, and we quiet our minds, we open our hearts and tune back into that force, that creative force, that primal force of all creation that wants to guide us, that's standing before us, that is our best and dearest friend, that wants us to be happy, that wants us to be filled with inspiration that we can share with others, and that will uplift the world, make this world a better place, that will bring more heaven to this planet. And all of this wants to happen through us, but it is like a video game. This is the game. This is how it works. That there is going to be this equal and opposite force that arrays in battle against us, and this is natural. This is the way any great movie plays out. This is the way any great novel that we're reading. It's got to have a hero and it's got to have a villain. There's got to be antagonists and protagonists that are going to try to stop the hero, because it wouldn't be a good story otherwise. So see your creative journey in the same way. I highly recommend reading Steven Pressfield's book, The Artist Journey. It's very practical and very far out at the exact same time. It's wonderful. He also says, this is Steven Pressfield again, never forget this very moment. We can change our lives. There never was a moment and never will be when we are without the power to alter our destiny. The second we turn the tables on resistance, the second we can sit down to do our work. So this is the secret, that at any moment, it is our choice. It is up to us. In this second, we can turn the tables on resistance. For me, it's about noticing it and saying, I see you, teacher. I see you. I like to look at resistance not as an enemy, not as evil, but as my teacher in disguise. You know, a teacher that is masked in disguise, pretending and trying to distract us. I love the story of Nachiketa and Yama, the king of death, where Nachiketa, the young boy, goes to the realm of death to meet the god of death and to learn the secrets of death. But all along, Yama is trying to trick Nachiketa, is trying to fill his mind with thoughts of beautiful women and music and art and riches and mansions and all of these things, of all that he could have if he would just give up on his quest to learn the secrets of immortality. But Nachiketa says, no, you're not giving me a blessing, you're offering me a curse. And he sees all along that Yama is his teacher who is just trying to trick him. And that's the way that story goes, that he, at the end, Yama becomes his teacher and is very proud of Nachiketa for staying vigilant and not falling for all of these tricks that so many other men before him fell for, men and women have fallen for. And this is what we're called to do, to really never forget, to remember what we came here for, remember that we're on a journey, a hero's journey, and that, of course, we're going to be faced with monsters, dragons, villains that are going to try and stop us. And as I said, I like to think about resistance as a threshold guardian, that there's this boundary that is like a boundary of our limitations, like a comfort zone that we are playing in, like a boundary of what we think is possible in our lives. And we're sort of playing within that. As long as we stay within that boundary, Steven Pressfield says, don't worry, the resistance won't bother you. As long as you're staying in your comfort zone, you can keep doing that, and these resistance monsters won't bother you. But once we heed the call, we get a call to venture out beyond the known into the unknown worlds. This is where the resistance shows up. This is where the threshold guardians show up. And they're blocking the entrance to this new horizon, this new world of possibilities. And what I like to do is to feel that I am the hero in the story, and that I have a noble purpose to do good for the world at large, that I am connecting, finding my center, finding calmness, holding love in my heart, connecting with my inner genius, my higher self, my inner guru and mentor, and calmly walking with not with hubris, but with competence and courage, and with a calmness in my heart, and this noble intention to do good for the world at large. And I imagine myself walking through, and these giant threshold guardians who are fierce. You could have fangs, and I like the ones from Thailand that stand in front of the temples that hold the big clubs. And I imagine them seeing me and stepping aside. And really what they're there is to protect the universe, to protect us from going beyond what we're ready for. And when we're ready, they step aside. And I imagine them sort of shape shifting quickly, turning into a teacher and kind of winking at me, and then turning back into those fierce guardians once again. And this is a way that I like to think visually. I like to imagine these mythological images within my mind, and that helps me. So when I start to feel all of those feelings of resistance and self-doubt and distractions, I like to imagine that they are threshold guardians, and that they are just there to stop me from my mission. And when I see them in that way and I recognize them, and I move through with that faith and competence and courage and calmness, we can be renewed and restored. And just like a video game character, we can level up, we can increase our hit points, we can increase our power, our persistence, and all of this pays off so that we can become stronger for our task. And there's another aspect of this that I've been thinking a lot about recently, and this is around, I've been sharing a lot around an author named Rizwan Virk, who wrote a book called Treasure Hunt. And he is a simulation hypothesis professor, and he writes books on simulation hypothesis. He also wrote a book on Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography called Wisdom of a Yogi. And he also wrote a book called Treasure Hunt, which Treasure Hunt is about noticing the synchronicities, the gut feelings, the hunches, the feelings of deja vu, the somatic experiences, things that we feel in our body, things that we just notice for some reason that stick out to us, that appear to be important for some reason or another. And he talks about making a book of clues by recording when these things come up, and then seeing if they repeat, to see if it repeats, to see if it's unusual, and to find out and ask what it's trying to tell us. And with this, we can follow the clues to find and to be confident in taking steps forward. It can even come to us in dreams, that these clues can arise in dreams. They can come to us in daydreams. They can show up in all many different places. The idea is that when they show up, is that we honor them. So if you have an interesting dream, that in the morning, is to honor that dream and to write these things down, and to throughout the week continue asking your higher self, what are you trying to show me here? What is this all about? And then they can make sense to us and click in our minds. But he also talks about anti-clues, that in our lives, there are some times where we may have patterns, repetitive patterns in our life, things that happen. So he says if it's happened to you 3 times in your life, you definitely know it's a pattern. These are like negative patterns that we have in our lives. There are patterns that with some people, maybe they jump into things too quickly. Like for me, I can get very excited about a new project, a new endeavor, a new curiosity that arises. And then I can so quickly be in over my head into a project and then find another thing that becomes very interesting to me. And then I've got all these projects and I've got too many things and I've lost interest in the other ones. That's something that happens to me, or I go all in on something too quickly before making any plans about how I'm going to pay for it, or all of those practical things sort of go out the window. And I have this kind of habit of like kind of getting into hot water or thin ice, or however you want to say it. So for me, I want to use this idea of anti-clues to test. And before I get carried away with something, so say something feels like a clue, and before getting carried away and diving all in and then getting in over my head, I can wait a little while to see if that clue continues to repeat, and to see if I can continue asking what it really means before I take steps and dive all the way in. So if there are patterns in your life, it's good to identify those patterns. Say we get a lot of energy sometimes we're so full of energy and we overcommit, and to things, and then we later on we find ourselves with not having so much energy to continue moving forward with all of the things that we've planned that we were going to do, and then we regret that. So the idea is that we recognize the patterns, and then we make the list of clues, and we see if it repeats and see if it keeps coming. And in this course that I'm working on, it's all about making a connection with and realizing that your higher self, your inner guru, your inner mentor, is your dearest friend who loves you and is always, always trying to help you. And the more that we listen, the more that we ask for inspiration and guidance, and we can develop our intuition, and we can learn to tell the difference between higher and lower inspiration. We can learn to tell when we are just going after patterns, our negative patterns, rather than what our higher self is really trying to teach us. Because sometimes the anti-clues can feel just like the real clues. They can have those feelings, those heightened feelings that we're going after. We can become very excited about them. But if we skip and we jump those other stages of testing and making sure that it is for us, then we can be following anti-clues. And Rizwan Virk, he also talks about these patterns like dragons. He said that there's an old Chinese saying about dragons. If you try to fight the dragon, it will defeat you. If you try to feed the dragon, it will eat you. But if you learn to ride the dragon, only then can you take advantage of its might and power. The key to overcoming our patterns is not to fight them, but to learn to ride them, because almost all of our patterns are born out of aspects of ourselves that reflect our strengths. However, by not recognizing our patterns, we often end up finding a way to turn our strengths into weaknesses. So it can be really from these strengths that we have. Maybe it's a really good aspect of us that really wants to help others. Maybe it's a good aspect of us that really wants to dive in and make a difference, and to be a part of a team, and to make great things happen, to bring goodness into the world. But when that becomes like a dragon within us, in the same way that, like, they say that all the dragons, if you notice, like in China and the temples, the dragons are holding this pearl, and they say that the dragons are guarding these pearls, and we can think of them like pearls of wisdom, these pearls, or these good aspects of us, but yet the dragon is guarding those pearls. And so if we learn to ride the dragon, we also get to harness our good energy, our good aspects, and we get to put them into the service of the light, of the goodness, and we harness that power and make the power of the dragon ours. And these are some words from Rizwan Virk. He says, so how do we recognize external patterns? The key is to reflect and learn to recognize that these are clues that indicate we are going down the path of a repeating specific pattern. The clues range from similar situations, external clues, to bodily sensations, internal clues, that occur as we make decisions that lead us down a path that ends up repeating our patterns. First of all, most people who start following their intuition tend to be either those who jump in too quickly, being too trusting, or those who don't act quickly enough when opportunity calls. And so this is what I was referencing, and the examples that I gave about myself of really going in and skipping the line and diving into things too quickly. That's a pattern for myself. So you can think about which one of those are you? Do you hesitate too much? Do you dive in too quickly? What are some patterns that you notice in your life that have just maybe kept you stuck where you are and not allowing you to move past? Because that's really what we want to do, is to move past these thresholds, move into new horizons. And these dragons keep us from even getting to that threshold by keeping us stuck in a loop. And when we notice the clues and the synchronicities and the hunches and the deja vus and the dreams and all of these interconnections, and we make notes of them, and then we can test them. We can make sure, we can see if does it continue to repeat? Because if your higher self is trying to get your attention, it will continue repeating the same thing. It will keep showing it to you. And when you turn inward for guidance and you ask for that inspiration about what does this clue mean, it will show up for you. And so then you will feel confident that it's time to now take that step forward. So even if you hesitate, you'll know now it's time to take the step forward. If you're someone who goes too quickly without testing it, you know you've tested it, so you can take your step forward. And that's a beautiful place to be, is to know that you are following your dharma. And as the Bhagavad Gita says, where there is dharma, there is victory. And when we're following what we are meant to be doing, we're on our path, then what is impossible for others becomes possible for us. So I just wanted to leave that for you guys tonight. Some good little nuggets for your hero's journey, for your creative journey that you're on. I just want to encourage you all to keep going. If you're feeling down, you're feeling low, that is just a good sign that you're pushing beyond your boundaries, and that is just a natural thing that arises. So recognize where you're at, recognize those dragons, those monsters that arise, and no matter what you do, don't let them destroy you, because they will keep you from fulfilling your purpose, keep you from the abilities and the things that you are meant to do in your lifetime. And I just wanted to end with this affirmation, this prayer. O Spirit, cast aside all mental burdens, allowing you to express through me your perfect calmness and your wisdom in this moment. I live protected by your infinite light, and so long as I remain in the heart of it, all challenges become opportunities to strengthen and grow. Joy to you, friends, and blessings for your adventure, and I'll see you next week.